my name is Bruno Littlemore. Bruno, I was given Littlemore, I gave myself, and with some prompting, I decided to give the gift of my memoirs. I made it by an intern, Gwen, who will record my every word to laser-like precision. Now, one could say that I am in captivity. After all, the court was swayed that I am too unique a specimen to be destroyed. Which is why I'm being held here in this confinement cage. Oh, with all the peaches I can eat. All told, I've been in worse cages, but a cage nonetheless. So where should I begin? I'll start with the first time I met Lydia. After all, Lydia is the reason why I'm here. But Lydia and Dr. Norman Plumley. Remember that name. Language, the great equalizer, has the power to save lives, stop injustice, and end war. But if used recklessly, it can do more harm than good. Author Benjamin Hale illustrates this with Bruno Littlemore, a chimpanzee, making the transition from animal to human. It shows us that sometimes ignorance is bliss. The Evolution of Bruno Littlemore by Benjamin Hale. The first time I met Lydia, I didn't even know I was participating in a scientific experiment. My sister, Celeste, and I were conveyed into this alien room. Suddenly, a scientist produced from his pocket a peach. Peach. I would have sold my soul for a peach. In a way, I did. I remember hating him, loathing him, for the way he lorded the fruit over me. This man was Dr. Norman Plumley. After some experiments, I was allowed to sit in the corner and play with my toys. And Lydia joined me. She picked me up and held me. And I put strands of her hair in my mouth. Lydia was my first love. Why don't you capitalize the L in love, Gwen? Hey. And why don't you capitalize the F in first as well? She brought me out of my animal darkness. I made a decision. I looked at Lydia and I said to her, boom! No! I forsook my animalhood then. Lydia became convinced that she would be able to teach an ape to fully understand and perhaps even verbally communicate in English. So I partook in experiments and flashcards with different symbols on them. Hand gestures. I was expected to emulate the naming of things. For 2 years. Everything is a process. Nothing is instantaneous. Take, for example, up on this table, and look at it. Now, try to imagine what it would look like to a silent-minded animal. The experiments were fun at first, but I grew weary of them. As soon as I had one task down, they would introduce another one. I chose to learn them quickly. simply so that I wouldn't have to suffer through the brain-numbingly dull procedures ad nauseum. I learned to speak, to read, and walk upright. I began taking nightly walks through the campus without a leash or collar. Degrading necessity these days. That night, I was walking to the behavioral biology laboratory. Well, I could see that something was going on inside, so I entered the room. Dr. Norman Plumley looked up from his work. He was alone in the lab. That is, except for the creature strapped face down to a bed. That creature was my sister, Celeste. On one of the long tables, I saw several publications of pornographic nature. I grasped the nature of this experiment. I knew what was contained in that syringe was probably his own. This wasn't science. This was rape. And I said, "What are you doing to Celeste?" I saw him make a swift move, and at that moment, I realized that my days of smashing and biting were not behind me after all. Man, bare hands, teeth, fit of rage. The thing that defines us as rational creatures, like you and me, Gwen, is that we are not always rational. I could not go back to the zoo. I could not go back to science. I had nothing left. I find it impossible to write a poem or anything, for that matter, about an unfallen Adam and Eve, because I cannot imagine them having a language. Eden was not sacrificed for the pleasure of a fruit, but for the pleasure of words. And now we have shame and pain and the knowledge of death.